just like that, we are back with our episode 6 recap review of the Hit Max show. And just like that, it's your guy Lucas with my amazing co host Amaya. How are you doing this late evening?
It is late. It's past my bedtime.
Speaking of things past, people, as we're going to jump right into this recap review, we start off with Carrie having to do a Zoom interview with clearly someone from Generation Z, because them the only
Yeah.
people that comes that unprepared for an interview. And during the interview, the person never read Carrie's book, doesn't know anything about her past books, but for some odd reason has an interview set up.
Mm-hmm.
Did this give you nightmares of being in interview sessions with people who had the slightest idea what was going on?
Absolutely. I feel like I was mortified for Carrie because when she was like, it's about death, she was like, okay, girl. I mean, stop playing. And I was like, oh, this is like, it was just, I don't know. That part was kind of irritating, but I know it's probably true. So I get why they did what they
Yeah.
did.
Oh yeah, it's plenty of people that you could set up an interview with, and they say, "Oh, so tell me what the book's about," and you're like, "Wait, what? Like you
Mm-hmm.
didn't read anything? You had the slightest idea what I wrote?
Not
Like
even
why are
the
we even
first
sitting here
chapter
talking?
or the last chapter. Nothing. Just nothing.
Hey, not even a summary, girl. Just open it up. Don't books still give you summaries
They do.
in the
They
front?
do.
Yes, read the summary, and then let's
Yes.
go from there. Just blank about it was hilarious to me, but. Next, I want to focus on one person's storyline for this entire episode. And that is the growth, as I'm going to call it, of Miranda in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna ask you first. What did you think about the initial start out with her and Nala? As she's kind of giving advice about a divorce, which makes no sense coming from Miranda, someone who's avoided every big subject humanly possible in their divorce, down to her confrontation with Shay at one point in time in the episode, to everything that happens at the end of the episode where we fully see everything come full circle with Miranda. What do you think about the way they focus her character in this episode this week?
I mean, I think that they were like, we got to do something with her because, I mean, we were getting sick and tired of being sick and tired of Miranda being a
Yeah.
pushover or, being confused or not knowing what she wants. And at this grown
Hmm.
age, it's unacceptable. So,
Exactly.
I feel like the conversation between her and Naya was very interesting, but also the conversation between her and Carrie were interesting as well.
Hmm.
In regards to, I'm only telling you this now so that it will light the fire up under you to do something different. So, or to make the first move. So I thought that was very interesting. I almost forgot that her and Steve had a conversation, but yeah.
Yeah, exact. Not well, her and Steve. That's the big conversation by the end of this episode because that
No,
was
I'm talking about
100%.
Carrie is. Remember when Carrie's
When
talking
Carrie
to
and Steve had the big conversation, I
yeah,
think it's is she talking about when they were doing the painting thing in season
I
one?
think so. Yeah, I think
I
so.
think that's what they're talking about by their conversation with one another. Or
Hmm.
what do you think about the earlier mistakes between Shay and Miranda just over the recordings and how she's just very happy to be joyful, fake joy with other people, but Miranda, she said, "I get the worst of you. Like I get everything that's going on bad with you. I get. I don't get to see this joy that you're fake giving other people."
That's not fair. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because as somebody who's suffered from depression before,
Hmm.
and who has I call them episodes. Like the point in having somebody with you is so that you don't have to fake it. Like so,
Yeah.
let me rephrase that. When you're in a relationship, the point is not to
Hmm.
fake it because I'm going through something. I'm bad. Why am I going
Yeah.
to fake like everything is okay? And as far as Che doing the voiceovers, like I mean, again, this is putting on face. You have to do something in order for her not to obviously like flop or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that the thing about depression, right, and or anxiety or anything of the sort is that I feel like there are some people in the world who don't know how to quite deal with it. And I think
Yeah.
Miranda is one of those people. She's like, well, you just got to get up off your ass and you just got to go for it. You got to get out the house and you got to da 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 da. And I think sometimes for her, I think I call those people functional depression folks. Like they function in
Mm.
depression, right? Like, and so I think that whole interaction was very interesting, but also like something that Che had to realize, and there's a lot of growth in both of them through this episode, you know. And she's like, well, I get the worst of you, and Che's like, well, you get the real me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not supposed to
Mm-hmm.
hide with you. And then Che apologizing because they are treating Miranda bad, and just acknowledging that. And then I also, you know, there are just so many little tidbits in this episode. I think that's something we also have to do as human beings, as people, even when, especially when it's coming from people that we love. When somebody apologizes to you, don't say it's okay.
Hey, man. Because for a lot of people, that is a huge trigger. Just to, I apologize. It's okay. Oh, that's okay. It's condescending in a way
No, my
to a lot of people.
whole camera just did whatever
I'm
it
about to
wanted
say,
to.
I didn't know if you got mad at me and said, you know what? I don't want.
I don't know what it is. What is going on right now?
Oh man.
I'm not good to cut that. Oh, gosh.
Oh no, we're keeping that. That is hilarious. We are keeping it. Cause you know what? Even in production things,
Things happen. Things happen.
things happen. Things happen. Oh my goodness. Okay. And let's focus on the big part of the end of the episode with Miranda. First, what did you think about that conversation between her and Steve? The conclusion with Steve, and then what happened with her and Shay at the end.
So I think that that's real. Like all of what happened and occurred
Mm-hmm.
was very real. It's a compilation of things that continue to happen again and again
Yes.
between them two, and eventually, you know, I don't, cause Steve, I don't think he ever really acknowledged the hurt, the pain, you know, all of
Mm-hmm.
what he was feeling. And so while I don't condone how he expressed himself, you know,
Yeah.
that's what happens when you don't express yourself. That is like a Tonka truck coming at you when really at first it was just a Prius, right? Like
Yep.
getting tapped by a Prius is way different than getting tapped by a Tonka truck. And so um I like that, you know, he acknowledged it. He had his moment. He blew up, but then he immediately recognizes like, this is not me. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said those things. I am upset. I am angry. You know, whatever. And Miranda acknowledging that she hurt him, and them having this moment. I'm not gonna lie. My favorite part of the episode, cinematography wise, was the comparison between Miranda and Steve being in the bed, and then Miranda and Che
Miranda
being in
and
the
Shay.
bed. I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool because it does, like you said, it caps Miranda's story in a sense of like this chapter in particular is closed. Um, but I do like that at the end she's like, "Oh, I thought you was," and you know what? Again, this conversation is super important. I thought you
Mm-hmm.
were wallowing and sad and this and a third, and your life had come to a pause. Meanwhile, you out here, you know, sleeping with somebody. He said you moved on. So did I. I'm not wallowing, I guess, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I thought that was very important because we have to remember that sometimes the things that we think somebody is feeling, we're placing onto them. We are not actually knowing what they feel. You know what I mean? So she had no real idea about what Steve was feeling. She just assumed. And then, you know, that conversation happens and she's like, well, I guess, you know, I won't be crying on the train because, hey, listen, I'm doing me and you doing you.
But do you think that it's the part of the reason she thought this is because that's the perception Steve gave her? Like from anytime we saw Steve and Grady, both of them were equally sad.
But
Like
were they
it
though?
was well, yeah,
But no, no, like
the
really
kid
think about
clearly was.
this. Grady did not.
But no,
Grady
with
wasn't
Steve, it was
sad.
just. I think it is sad. I mean, he wouldn't get out the bed. He was clearly sad.
Who,
He
Grady?
was clearly sad. Yeah,
Well,
he was clearly sad.
Grady was sad about his breakup. Remember, like
Not
when
them. No, no, no. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about in general the way both of them reacted. Like as she said, like I wouldn't have come over here this much. I only came over here because of the way you were acting. Like you, I think he did put on a facade for her because he was hurt by her. So the best
I
way to
don't.
do that is make it feel like it's all her fault. Because down to even the breakdown in the house, like she said it perfectly. Like,
Yes,
it
that's
can't be our
true.
house and my house. My name is on everything. And then he
But
goes to this huge soliloquy of you broke us up, all this. But my brother, if you've already moved on, that wouldn't even be a discussion necessary to have.
but who said that he moved on? Sex and moving on is not the same. Having sex with somebody and actually moving on are two different things. I can have
But
sex with
then is
somebody
that the
all day,
case
every day.
where you can say at the end of her moving on and him moving on? Because that means he didn't move on, he just had sex with somebody. So that means he actually is still trapped in her, but she's not with him.
I don't think he's trapped anymore. I think in the conversation that they had this episode was freeing. I think that he gave off. I don't. Here's the thing. When I'm thinking back to the episodes that we've seen, you don't even see a lot of Steve. First of all. Secondly, when you do see him, he's pretty much like avoiding Miranda. He's hitting on the boxing bag, right? Grady is
Hmm.
halfway sad because of his own breakup, and he's annoyed more than he's sad about his parents' breakup. He's sad because they haven't actually decided to do something to like make
Hmm.
it known whether they are here or not there. I think that's the thing. So the reason why I don't necessarily think that it was the sadness, it was the guilt that kept Miranda coming back because she felt guilty for breaking up the family, for not being happy. Like all the things that Steve said, like you weren't happy, I was happy. I didn't notice you wanted something different. Like you didn't talk to me, and I can't really remember season one, so I don't know whether or not there was like a conversation, but I think that there was between the two of them as far as the
Yeah.
marriage shifting, like things not being the same,
About him
but
not doing the things that he used to do.
right. And
Yeah.
so I think that, but I do feel like it's not this, it wasn't sadness. It was an assumption that Steve was like down, depressed, or sad, or
Hmm.
whatever the case is. He was just upset and angry, and that looks different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
But also, I think that Miranda just felt extreme guilt because you didn't have to come over there. Because seriously, you showing up to wake Grady up, right? You want to carve pumpkins, you want to decorate the stoop, you're folding up laundry. These men are not incapable. These are grown ass men. There's no need
Hmm.
for you to come over and do the laundry and fold it up. So to me, it was just weird. It's to me it was her guilt. I don't think that it was
Okay.
just I think that yes, she felt like maybe there was some sadness from Steve, but not enough to do all that. Like that's crazy. Like even if that was the case, even after Grady had the conversation and he's like, you don't have to do this. That light bulb should have went off, and she should have been like, "Yeah, I'm good." But you back over there doing laundry again? What we doing here? Like at this point, we should just pay you for being a maid. I'm
I mean,
confused.
I think part of it is at this point, Steve should have been gone by now. I
But
mean, that's
this
part
is
of the conversation that Carrie had with her. Like, you need to push him
yes,
to leave.
yes, he should have.
Because
And I mean,
even even down at the end of this episode, when he goes off about, I built this kitchen, I did this and that. So you made the agreement that you would leave. Like, why are you still here?
yeah, I mean, but
My,
that's a
like,
conversation that they didn't have like after as soon as therapy was done, right? Because he admits that he
yeah.
lied and whatever else. But I do think that like, listen, if 30 days nothing has changed, it's about time for you to be like, you know what, we gotta have this conversation again. Are you or aren't you moving out? Like plain
And
and
if you're not
simple.
moving, we could just sell a house and split our ways. But
Exactly.
nah. Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm not
So
giving up my. Well, no. In that case, technically the house is in Miranda's name.
I mean, yeah, it's her house. Yeah, I mean, but I
Yeah.
also I do think that there was a lot of stuff that, for me, when I think about marriage and when I think about the things that people say when they're upset
Uh-huh.
and they're getting ready to go through divorce, like I built the kitchen even down to the floors. You never even wanted to move to Brooklyn, and you didn't even want Grady and da da da. I think that it was a clear indicator that they probably shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. But
Yep.
Nonetheless,
Hmm.
when you see the breakup situation happen with Che, it's like finally one of you realized that this is probably not it, and it's giving Miranda needs to be with herself. I mean,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
nothing wrong with being alone. Like
no.
she literally, Shay gave her a sense of hope again that
Hmm.
she didn't have with Steve. But that don't mean you jump into a relationship with that person. Maybe
Yeah.
they were just there to release you from your prior relationship. And hopefully we get that with Miranda because she's been an extremely annoying character for now a season and a half. So hopefully single Miranda is much better than married, cheating, lesbian, straight Miranda has been
Yeah.
so far
Just
for this series.
just figure it out. Like find yourself, figure it out. Non-binary, lesbian, gay,
Whatever you want to
heterosexual,
be.
bi, like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but it's
Pan, whatever,
yeah,
asexual,
it's
like
just
whatever you
giving
want to be, it's fine.
confusing. Yeah, it's giving
It's
confusing.
giving midlife crisis,
Yeah. What?
mid
How?
mid
When?
vag crisis, because
I would.
women don't really have a midlife one, I don't think.
I don't know.
So
I
it's a
ain't there
mid
yet.
vag crisis. I'm gonna call it mid vag crisis.
I ain't
It
there
fits
yet, so I don't
better.
know. I don't know.
Next up, let's because it's not anything to talk about Nyla this episode. She did a nice dinner party with everybody. That's about it. She made pupusas. Great.
Hmm.
So it's not much to talk about. But Lisa,
I mean, she spent Valentine's Day by herself. Oh wait, no, that's the other one, right? Oh well, there you go. Huh. Listen, everything
oh,
is.
she made pupusas for the girls. That's all we had because that's what led to the conversation with Carrie, telling her like, "Hey, this is what you need to do to
Yeah.
to let Steve out of there." But Lisa, on the other hand, still refusing help and still being an unnecessarily strong, independent woman. She is in this episode. So, one, I'm just gonna ask the blunt question: what do you think about Lisa rejecting her husband's offer to drop her at her event for no apparent reason at all, just to be independent woman?
I don't know. I'm so confused. I'm so confused. I get it. There was a bit of a power struggle. There was a tussle um as far as him making it seem like his thing was more important than her thing,
Yeah,
and that's how she felt. I I, I mean, come on, seriously, not in a snowstorm. Like this is ridiculous.
in a what's
It's
that
in a New York
a
blizzard.
bomb cyclone?
In the New York blizzard. I'm from New York, so let me tell you, those blizzards are no joke. I mean, we definitely had to walk a few days to school. Like in like 4 feet of snow. Um, I understand why she did what she did, right? Because she's saying like, I'll figure it out. Like this is important to me enough to show up, um, despite not having the car service. I think maybe there was a fear that if she did get the ride from him, that the ride would not be to her event, and that in itself is a problem. If that
Yeah,
was the thought, right? Um, but I don't know. I'm bittersweet on that, right? Because as a black woman, who has a cape, and who's ready to like take the cape off, like why? Like why be so like why do you need to do that? It's unnecessary. Like let him show up for you in the way you want him to, and then just I don't know. It was I'm not gonna. So the first part of that scene, I was not thrilled with, right? But the second part where she makes it, she goes into the bathroom, she like takes off her little the hat and the scully or whatever, and puts the wig on, and the woman next to her, she says, "We're not gonna let a little bit of snow, stop us," and she's like, "Absolutely not." And I feel like I love that part, but it's also the the continuation of making this okay, right? Of
hmm,
making the strong black woman thing okay. And um I don't know, it was a lot. I mean, I like that Herbert showed up for her, while she was speaking, but again, if you think that he's not going to take you where you're supposed to go, that's an issue. And if you guys can't
Yeah.
communicate that those two things, his thing and your thing, are both as important. I don't think one is
Yeah.
more important than the other. I think they're both equally important. And I feel like
Hmm.
that's the problem in relationships, and is that we're trying to make something, one thing, more important than the other, when the key is
Hmm.
that they're just both important. You know what I mean? I don't
Exactly.
I don't know.
I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from it was, wow, one, here's another instance of you refusing his help.
Yeah.
Makes no sense to do so. And to put yourself in that predicament, in that weather for no reason other than be like, you know what, they put on this event for me, which I fully understood that. And they're saying, you know
Mhm.
what, this is important. I need to show up for that. That makes sense. But you didn't need to reject his help
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Again, it just makes it seem like this is going to be an ongoing pattern with her, of her not knowing when she needs help,
Yeah.
because she wants to do everything by herself. She wants to provide on her own, which makes perfectly good sense. But even the hero needs help along the way. I mean, Superman ain't always save Lois Lane. Sometimes she did save him.
I mean,
Like, it's
doesn't the
fine.
president have a vice president? I'm confused. What we talking about?
Hey, like it made no sense. But I did like the scene with her and the old woman, because that was just, of course we're not gonna let a little snow stop us. And
Like,
Eloise Jefferson, no, we're not. I said, yep, that makes perfectly good sense. Next up in the storyline department, we're gonna focus on Charlotte being the most free-spirited parent ever humanly possible.
mm-mm.
So, first, during a bomb cyclone, would you go get your teenage daughter condoms so her and her boyfriend don't do the pull-out method?
Absolutely not. Okay. Absolutely not. That was just a lot for me. And I feel like I get sex positivity.
Mm-hmm.
I get like wanting your like as a adult who was sex
Mm-hmm.
shamed by parents when I was younger. Um, I get it. And I love that for them, right? I do. I think that kids should be allowed to, I don't want to say kids, teenagers, they're still kids, but still,
Yeah.
when I'm talking
Yeah.
about kids, I'm referring to teens, 14 and up, right? But I
Yeah.
think that there should be like a conversation, and we don't know the full conversation that Charlotte really had. But there
Mm-hmm.
should be a conversation around like, this is not just a physical thing. This is an emotional and a spiritual thing, right? But I'm not going out to get you condoms in a blizzard. That is like crazy. Oh, this is rich people problems. Let's move on.
Oh, yeah, that's what made it so fun. But I mean, what makes it funnier is that these conversations do take place, and that Lily is comfortable enough coming to her mom and basically like, "Hey, like, we're just gonna have sex," and make it as a no big deal type of thing, except
Mhm.
for wanting to go to Nobu before sex. That's a little bougie place to go to before for sex. But
Very.
to even want to do it and I want to have this conversation and had this open dialogue with her mother, I thought that was interesting, because I don't know a lot of people who have that. I mean, I grew up where I had that. Like, my mom bought my condoms from 13 to 20. So,
Not to
like,
20.
yes, to 20. Why you say it like that?
Why? Don't you? You ain't have a job,
I still needed them
so why you ain't buy 'em yourself?
because my mama bought them. She bought
Mm-mm.
them, my mom and my godmother, and they bought them in massive quantities from Costco.
That's
It's
disgusting.
amazing how much I had to run through
Massive one.
condoms.
Goodbye, sir. Goodbye, Lord. If you listening, second thought,
But
maybe a
it
daughter.
but it was good to see this conversation take place with these two where it is discomfortable. Now, the going out in the snow, I'm not, if it rains too, if it's drizzling, I'm not going to get nobody a condom. You just won't have sex that day.
Listen, well, you better go do what your mom did for you. You better go stock up so that they don't have to.
Exactly. But that would be the key part here. Like, I would assume, like, if we had a conversation with sex and you tell me you got it, you got it. Would the next question is, who has protection?
Yeah, well,
Like,
they didn't.
these are the other steps of it, and I don't
They
think they
didn't
went that
fully.
far with it.
No, it was an
I mean,
assumption.
down to her calling Carrie. which I thought was also a very interesting conversation
That was
when
funny.
she called Carrie
That was
about
funny.
condoms. And Carrie's like, wait a minute, I'm not afraid to get pregnant. And she said, well, maybe STDs. Do you think I would be sleeping with someone that would have me in an STD situation? Like,
Yeah.
it's a very interesting conversation for elderly women. Ooh, that sounded bad. Older
Okay.
women,
Oh,
yeah, I had this elderly sounded horrible.
it did.
For older women as it pertains to having sex with contraceptives, because Carrie looked at it like that is not something I'm doing.
Hmm.
In her amazingly fabulous coat that makes no sense that someone owns that coat, but everyone
I
should own that coat.
want that coat. Listen, as soon as I saw it, I said, this is some fuckery right here, but I want that coat.
That
Like,
is probably a $20,000 coat.
oh, you damn right it is. You damn right it is. And that thing better keep you toasty, okay? Everything better be toasty.
But again, it was just interesting to see this setup with Charlotte, to see because she's always been the uptight person. And we're seeing with her kids, that's not the case. She is way more the free spirited mom than ever. She got her a multi pack of condoms
Yeah.
with different sizes. This is why, and then we'll go on to the next subject. Parents out there, parents of America, this is why you need to, if you teach your kids about being sex positive, if it's a boy or a girl, you need to make sure they have condoms. Not only that, if it's a boy or a girl, you need to make sure they have multiple condoms in multiple sizes
But
because
but they didn't have
it ain't
multiple
one size
sizes.
fits all.
The package
Huh?
never comes with multiple sizes, which is actually
Then you buy
you should pitch
multiple
that.
sizes.
But they
Yeah.
had multiple stimulators, so ribbed, thin, heated. That's what she gave her, the multi pack of.
Oh, so yeah, you need like different sizes because you need to
Yeah,
know, like, hey, condoms should be like, I forget it's other things that come in multiple sizes. Condoms
but
should do the same thing.
they should. I mean, you should
Yeah.
pitch that. You know, that there's
Because
somebody.
you don't want to put a small condom on someone who can't use it, and you damn sure don't want to have somebody with a saggy one on. Like, either way is not a good look for you, and it negates the point of using one. So, again, I mean, maybe we'll come up with that idea. I think that's Big Gold Belt sponsors the Big Gold Belt. Rib for her pleasure,
I'm done.
or rib for their pleasure. We are inclusive to everyone. There
I
we
like
go.
the raised bumps ones. Studded is what they call it.
They have
I know.
Didn't even know that. I'm sorry. I'm old fashioned. That it's a regular condom and we're fine.
All right, goodbye.
I'm
Let's
not,
go.
I don't need none of the thrills and frills of anything
It
else.
ain't for you. See what I'm saying? This is why. This is exactly why I buy my own. 'Cause it ain't for you. Goodbye. Good day, sir. Moving on. Cause ladies, tell him it ain't for him. I need y'all to back me up.
Oh man. Touche, touche. Let's talk about Carrie Carrie and Che and WidowCon.
Mhm.
All of it in together. One, you ever had that person who you know doesn't like you, but fakes like they like you? That's the situation we get with Carrie in this episode with someone who was named Karen, but for obvious anti-white woman reasons has decided, let's change this to Carrie with a K, like a Kardashian, because it's much better to do it that way.
Mhm.
What did you think about Carrie and Carrie's interactions this entire episode?
I thought it was funny. I like the
Yeah.
back and forth. I like the sarcasm, the shade, all of that good stuff. And I think that Carrie with the K meant well. I think that even though she was don't make like putting the jabs at Carrie with a C, um, she ain't hating on Carrie. She just throwing those jabs to let her know for whatever reason she thinks that they
She's
would
still
have been
mad.
they would have been an amazing pair together enough to write 27 dresses, which Carrie is like, maybe I was drinking that time too. But nonetheless, I liked it. I liked that banter. I thought it was really cool. It made it much more fun when
Yeah.
they got to WidowCon and she's like, oh, you made it. What a surprise. Oh, okay.
That's why I said hated. It came across as just shade after shade after
Yeah.
shade. of, oh, I understand if you don't make it. It's not something new coming from you. It's like, what? Wait a minute. Like, you're never gonna keep on shading me in my face like this. And
Yeah.
Carrie not being able to respond to it because in a sense, Carrie feels guilty because I don't even remember who you are.
Hmm.
Like, so I don't know what I did to you there. But also, what you think about the relationship between Carrie and Shay here? That Shay is the one that Carrie reaches out to
I love
here.
it.
I was a little, huh? Like, isn't it
Really?
a rule about? See, and I think it's conflated because Carrie knew Shay before Shay got involved in a relationship with Miranda,
Mm-hmm.
and Carrie doesn't know much about the relationship because Miranda's not one to share here.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I did love their interactions in the short burst that we got their interactions in this episode. It was funny and it worked very well. It just still came across as weird, I guess, when it pertains to what we see by the end of the episode.
But
It threw me off.
it's not, it's not like this is the first time we're seeing it. Carrie called Shay for advice on the producer a few
Hmm.
episodes ago. So they've got this rapport and they built this friendship where Carrie does feel safe and comfortable coming to Shay. So I didn't see anything wrong with it. And I think that, you know, Carrie was doing what any person would do. You know, if you know somebody who speaks in front of audiences all the time,
Hmm.
despite where they are personally, maybe they don't. Maybe they would they say no, right? Because Jay could have said
Yeah.
no, but but Carrie is asking because she genuinely needs the help. She needs the assistance, the encouragement, the support.
Yeah.
Um, and so sometimes when you are depressed and you're in such a dark state, doing something for others makes you feel
Yep.
better.
Yep.
And also you never know what you're gonna get out of that. And as we can see, Che got the, oh, you need to get up off your ass and
Hmm.
get out this space, So I liked it because I think it's actually not something that's far fetched. You know what I mean? When I have my moments or I have an episode, it stands to reason that sometimes that's like the time when people for whatever reason seem to come to me, and instead of me being so wrapped up in my own stuff and my own funk, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, like I got you, or whatever the case is. Um, so
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting. I did really like that Carrie, um, she was herself despite the woman who went before
Yeah.
her, trying to be the comedian and all. She realizes that like being herself is the best way to go, and then also the lady like gives her compliments afterwards about the book and tells her how
Yeah.
amazing it was. So I like that too.
I think it showed Carrie that grieving can come in two different forms for a lot of people.
Mhm.
It could be that escapism, and that's what the humor did. Like,
Right.
this is and you're in a room full of women who've lost what could be, or hopefully was, for most of them, the love of their lives.
Right.
And yes, they can laugh about it because there's no reason to dwell on it. I literally saw something on Instagram between two people in the entertainment industry, and they were going to a podcast, and both of them have lost their spouses, and they said, "Yeah, they having us as the widower and widowee for their podcast." Like, it's something about humor that you could get from losing someone that you love,
Yeah.
because 9 times out of 10 they brought that joy into your life. But Carrie also learned this episode it's perfectly fine to still be more serious and still grapple with the thought of loss
Right.
and letting people understand how you processed it. Everybody ain't gonna process it through humor here.
No,
And I
they're
think
not.
that's what really worked in the real room, and that's what really hit Shay a lot, is as she said by the end of the episode, like, you all lost the love of your life. I just had the death of my ego.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, she made it sound minuscule, but we all understand, like,
It's super
that's a
big.
traumatic death to have to for your ego to die.
Yeah.
So I think it was great that she was there because she ended up getting more out of it than Curry did from her. I think
Absolutely.
it was the message that Shay needed to hear. To, as we seen by the end of the episode, for her to move on, she needed that message from Curry, like, oh, so it is fine to move on. It is
Yeah.
fine to understand, like, certain things, I can let go and it not overly affect me. So
Mm-hmm.
again, it was a good way to end the conclusion for Carrie, for her to have joy. And then at the end of the episode, Aiden responds, but we don't see anything. But we see him. Well, she sends the email.
No,
I
she
should say. I'm
sends the
sorry.
email. Yeah.
She sends the email to Aiden. Not Aiden responds. He didn't respond. But she sent the email to Aiden.
Yeah.
Where do you think that's going to possibly go? Because they like hinting towards him. Granted, we know, everyone knows what's happening because clearly they could not wait to tell us before the season started that he was coming back in this season
Hmm.
here.
Yeah. I think that it's very interesting. I think that when you get to that space, because I was thinking about it as I was watching, I was like, do I have like that one person that I would dare like email and see if they, like, and just see what happens? And like, do I,
Emailing in 2023.
yeah, like,
You
do
mean
I want
text?
that?
Instant message?
I
Like,
mean, you know, like people, I've emailed some folks because one, I didn't have their number no more, or it didn't work, or I just didn't really want that instance. I mean, even though email is instant,
wow, really?
it's text messages is more instant. So, but I thought that it was interesting because you do see people kind of grapple with the fact of like, should I make this move? And
Hmm.
one thing I do like is that they're saying that like no matter what, because we don't know what happens, right? Although we know he comes back, we don't know in what capacity.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, sometimes taking that leap is like, it's not a bad thing. Like, it just is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, you don't think
Yep.
too much on it. Just do it and see what the outcome is.
That is absolutely true. But just understand, if I was in a relationship with you and it ended bad and you send me an email, my reply will be, per our last discussion.
Uh-uh.
Then I'm going to go in because I don't forget nothing. And my pettiness will not allow me to just let that slide.
Not
You will
per
get a
my last. Oh
per
my
per
god.
our last discussion email. You will get one of those.
Petty
Because I'd be
boots.
damned if you send me an email. But just like that, episode 6, any final thoughts on this episode?
I loved it. It's probably, I think 5 and 6 have been great episodes. They've been going upward and onward for the
Yeah.
better, and you see more growth, more character development, and so I do like that a lot. I think that that's what we've been waiting for, so yay for us.
Yes, finally. I know certain people will just have completely given up on this show.
Oh,
But
listen,
episode 5
they in the
returned it kind of
comments.
to what it, yeah, that's what I mean. But episode 5 did kind of turn the tide to what it felt like to watch Sex in the City. And here they have the same setup with the little gag. It was penis pump guy last episode. It's Charlotte going through a bomb cyclone to find Lily condoms in this episode. Is them understanding these little things are really good and they can really help, even with the more serious aspects of their storylines. So again, this is another great episode. So check it out. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about Carrie and Aiden moving forward. What will we get out of that relationship? What do we think about Charlotte going to get her daughter condoms? It doesn't even have to be in a blizzard. Are you that comfortable as a parent or as a child for your parent or for you to get condoms for your child? How comfortable are you in that aspect of life? And what do you think about Miranda and Steve and them finally coming to a conclusion of their marriage while at the same time Miranda coming to an end of a relationship that most of you all hated? I read the comments. All you all did not like Shay. But let us know what you think about Miranda moving on. You can check out this review at 4 a.m. right after the episode drops. Our review drops on Big Gold Belt. This has been another production of Big Gold Belt Media. Peace, people.